You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming out for The Real Short Box. My name is Donald.
I'm Darren.
And I am Kevin.
And today we're thinking about slapping each other around pretty good because we're going to talk about comic book battles. Basically, some of the best fight scenes in comic books you've ever seen in your entire friggin' life. Come here, Kevin. I'm going to get your head locked right now. Gotcha. I don't know why you're doing cat noises right now.
Cat fights.
Okay, that's really odd, but okay.
Now, there's quite a standard when you're talking about these fights. There are obviously some we're going to speak of that everybody in the comic world talks about, and we're going to try to maybe throw you for a loop on one you may have forgotten.
Yes, and forgotten that you're not a cat, maybe, for one thing. Kevin's drunk, by the way.
No, I'm drunk with joy, sir.
Well, I'm going to go first. I'm going to go with Amazing Spider-Man number 3, Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus. Now,
This is like the first one.
yes, this is not like one of those epic fights with, and I don't want to hint towards ones we might be getting to later, but it's not epic in the sense that it takes page after page after page, but what it does establish for me is it establishes a formula of how Spider-Man fights his villains and why Spider-Man's such an intriguing character. Oftentimes, Spider-Man does fail the first time that he fights his villain. He always has to go back and really rethink things, and that's where the character starts to shine. His intelligence, his innovativeness, his ability to study, and that is usually my favorite part of Spider-Man, is him trying to figure out how to beat the villain after falling to the villain. So this fight to me was significant only because of the fact that this is kind of how he fights all of his villains, and it just had to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one. Doc Ock is... anybody that's seen Spider-Man 2, we're talking about the good Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
The
Sam
first
Raimi
one.
classic.
And yes, there is one. Good Spider-Man 2.
I mean, the most recent one wasn't bad, don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about in the history of Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 will ring out as one of the best simply because of Alfred Molina's portrayal of Dr. Octavius in the canon, in the comics, in the movie. How well he portrayed that character is almost like a father figure to Peter Parker in that. It rang true, and it was a very powerful movie in a bunch of powerful scenes in there. But also, the battles were great. Doc Ock is an excellent villain and somebody that I love. I love the fact that character exists and is around. Without Doc Ock, you don't have much, to be honest. He was the Sinister Six. He's the linchpin that kind of keeps that together.
Yeah, and honestly, like, the character in the book didn't wow me quite as much as Alfred Molina. Like, Alfred Molina was that good.
Yes.
I did not look forward to that character in that movie, because I'm a Spider-Man guy, but my gosh, you got that smart but lazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Donald, who are you? You got to give us a big fight here, and I'm talking like Guile versus Blanca Street Fighter 2 Turbo fight here, okay?
Easy. All right, let me grab it. All right, so in the 80s, the Avengers did a run. It was basically where a lot of the villains were tired of getting their asses whooped. Mm-hmm. They were like, guys, we get beat up time after time after time, and it's getting so old. Let's form a super villain team and not just take them on head on, methodically come after them. And we're talking about Hyde. We're talking about the Wrecking Crew. We're talking about Tiger Shark. We're talking about Baron Zemo.
Tiger Shark, wow.
We're talking about some of the most elite of elite when it comes to villains. Goliath is in here even. Some of the most elite of Avengers villains and villains in general in the Marvel Universe that banded together to take on the Avengers. Now, they did so very methodically and very calculating, and was able to defeat pretty much the entire team of the Avengers. And in 274, the Avengers issue 274, Hercules has had enough.
As he often does.
Hercules decides that he can't stand by any longer and watch the Avengers get taken down. He needs to take action. So he goes in and takes on basically every entire villain on that team. Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Well, who are a few of those again?
The Wrecking Crew, for example. Baron Zemo, also. Tiger Shark. As far as Goliath is another one. Just a bunch of these villains that just got together. Hyde was a big one for this. He was instrumental because he really wanted to kill... and we're talking about the Avengers team that had my boy, the Black Knight, in there. He wanted to kill... He took out the Black Knight, and he was getting ready to kill the Black Knight, and he was told not to. And he was like, but shouldn't we just kill these people? Why do we keep them around? They'll just come back and beat us up. He was preaching what every reader was saying. Why wouldn't you just kill these heroes? But they were like, no, we need him alive to be able to bait the others to come and get him so we can then attack them, one by one. So Hercules does this hell of a battle where he takes on the Wrecking Crew and Hyde, is essentially, and Goliath's in there as well. He gets flung around, beat around. All of the Wrecking Crew, Hyde, Goliath, once he falls down, they just start pummeling him. They beat him within an inch of his life. We're talking about he gets rushed to the hospital because he's dying, essentially. He's in critical condition. And that is when the Absorbing Man and a few other villains decide that they're going to take their revenge. And they're going to go in, and they are going to go and kill Hercules.
Wow, look at that.
They're going to finish him off.
Doctor's working on him.
Title of issue 275 is Even a God Can Die.
Look at that. Doctor's working on him.
Yeah, Doctor's working on Hercules to try to revive him.
To go with my Street Fighter theme, Hercules looks a lot like Zangief.
A little bit.
Yes, he does.
A little bit.
So basically, all that's left is Jan and Scott. We're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. They're the only two Avengers left. Cap's been kidnapped. Even poor Jarvis has been kidnapped and is being slapped around by Baron Zemo.
Hey, the Wasp. The Wasp doesn't look like the lady from Lost. She's drawn differently.
And she's drawn differently, yes.
Why is that?
That's just the way it happens.
Times change, Kevin.
I see.
Yes. So the Wasp and Ant-Man realize of this this evil plot to kill Hercules is coming. And they are the only two left standing to defend Hercules from an onslaught. I mean a complete onslaught of villains from the Marvel Universe. And when you're talking about some A-listers, we're talking about Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man is an A-lister as far as I'm concerned. So him and a few other, I can't remember the lady's name to be honest, but they both come to the hospital to destroy Hercules. And it's down to Ant-Man and the Wasp. And guess what? They do what they can. I think it's Titania is the lady that's with Absorbing Man. Yeah, it's Titania.
I should not be staring at her that much.
Oh, yeah. You get
Be careful.
Now,
there,
when
sir.
you
get
say
some booty views from this.
Absorbing Man is an A-lister. Are we talking about the same Absorbing Man who is in the Hulk movie as Nick Nolte? Or is that?
I don't think that was Absorbing Man.
Okay, because I think it called him Absorption Man.
Something strange.
Could there be
Yeah.
something different? Okay.
Yeah, that was Ang Lee doing his fucked up version that no one
I
liked.
just try to think about what
No, it wasn't that bad, brother.
It was bad.
You didn't like the cinematography?
I threw up on my mouth.
You
and
think it was cool seeing those comic book like frames coming across the screen?
It was bad, dude. It was bad. It was bad. So basically what happens is Ant-Man and the Wasp take down Absorbing Man. They take down Titania. They defeat them, and Hercules survives. And the Avengers, they come back, and they win the day. But that fight that Hercules put himself through, the whole fight in general, just this whole run, this Avengers run, if you guys can find it, pick it up. It is gold. Highly recommend it. And with that, Kevin, do you have something?
Yes. I have The Age of Apocalypse, The Final Battle.
What if you were to say no, Kevin? That would end this podcast rather quickly.
Not necessarily. We just skip to you.
Yeah, we go back around.
We go back around.
I've got a few.
Yes, I have.
Just because Kevin shits the bed doesn't mean we all have to.
I'm just saying, you could have been unpredictable there. Our viewers like that.
That's true.
I've been reading their remarks.
I'm like, no, actually, I don't have anything, fellas.
As you were saying.
No, I have a very good, cool battle that I remember from 24 years ago. The Age of Apocalypse storyline I thought was pretty awesome for 4 months back in the mid-90s.
Oh, you only thought it was awesome for 4 months?
Well,
after that, it was complete shit?
No, it was only out for 4 months.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
So it was a great read, great alternate timeline that was established with Xavier's death and Magneto basically forming the X-Men in his honor. And 20 years during that comic book storyline, you had the battle between Apocalypse's team and Magneto's team.
Mm-hmm.
And it all culminated with one final battle between Apocalypse and Magneto. And let me tell you something, fellas. It was quite a fight. Page after page, panel after panel of these great villains in the usual Earth 616, but just in this case, Magneto, the hero versus Apocalypse. They're just going at it.
Now, I'm a big fan of Magneto.
And as you know, I'm a big fan of Apocalypse.
I've argued many times of Magneto and Superman.
And I agree with that pod. And guess what? I'm about to add credence to your argument about the power of Magneto.
Hit me with it.
Because the way it ends, I'm going to read it to you. But before I read it to you, as you can see the picture here, Magneto delivers a final crushing, deadly blow to Apocalypse. Oh, yes.
He certainly does. Look at that.
Look at that.
Whoa.
Yes, he brought it. I mean, basically, he used every last energy that he had left to take out Apocalypse.
Could Apocalypse be taken out? I guess so.
I guess so. And here's the best part. You'll like this, Donald. This will give you a little chubby.
Mm-hmm.
After he...
I like my chubbies.
How do you know what gives him chubbies?
After he blows up Apocalypse, and as Apocalypse is dying, he says, for 20 years, you've gone on and on about how only the strong survive. Tell me again, Apocalypse, as Apocalypse is coughing up his last breath, just how strong are you?
And Apocalypse is like, eat shit.
Yeah, he's like coughing. He's like, I. And he's like, we were the mightiest of our race, Apocalypse. Suppose we've been on the same side. What a world that would have been. And you see Apocalypse just taking his last breath. And you see Magneto kind of like the old cowboy.
Strutting away. His cape in the wind.
Yep.
Magneto's one tough son of a bitch. Yep. I'll give it to him.
Yes, sir. And even that surprised me back then when I was read that as a kid. I was like, damn, oh my God. Magneto just brought the pain.
Yeah.
So after that, I said, you know what? I found a new respect for the Master of Magnetism.
Yeah, absolutely. None better. None better when it comes to villains. He's top notch.
But as you know, he's one of the most complicated.
Absolutely.
Oh, didn't we?
We talked about
we
that
voted him as the #1 villain in Marvel. At least I did.
Indeed. But you know,
yep, me too. Yeah. Kevin didn't know.
But you know, fellas. What is that? But you know, fellas. But you know what isn't complicated?
What's that?
Our sponsor.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, everyone. Just wanted to mention real quick about a shop in Canoga Park, California called Spiro's Heroes. Elliot, the proprietor of the store, has over 300,000 books in what's called the Temple of Comics. That's Spiro Heroes in Canoga Park, spirosheroes.com.
Wow, that really wasn't complicated at all. You go in there and you get great value and amazing books. I mean, what more can you ask for?
I had a line prepared and everything too, Kevin. It was coming right then. I'd be like, the biggest battle of all time, my wallet versus Elliot.
That's pretty good too.
That's what was gonna. But you know what?
Well, next time.
You one up me. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
I will give you respect.
Okay.
You will get respect, Kevin.
Like the Godfather.
All right, what do you got, Darren? What's next?
Well, this one, every one of our listeners should be listening to, should know, especially our hardcore listeners, and that, of course, would be Batman versus Bane.
Bane.
This, to me, now remember when this happened, I was a youngster, and we just do not see Batman dominated, let alone have his back broken.
It's true. You know what? That was on my list. I'm glad you mentioned it because that scene in the comic books almost broke me.
It should.
Such a powerful moment. Him just snapping his spine over his knee like that, like you're a little bitch.
And
boom.
As I remember, he ambushed Batman. Batman was just chilling in his mansion.
Batman was exhausted is what he was.
Yes.
He ran him through the gauntlet. He made sure that every villain was sprung and attacked him one by one by one, and at the end was Bane. Bane was smart. He was strong enough. He would have been strong enough to take him on his own at the beginning.
Right.
But he was like, why take the chance? And that's something that we don't see of Bane as much as we used to, is that Bane's
strategic.
very methodical, very strategic. Bane is a very highly intelligent person.
He's basically the best combination of brains and bronze.
Yeah, I would say.
And what's kind of intriguing is we saw in the Dark Knight Rises movie, he was a smart character, but Talia made him look not quite as smart because she was really smart.
Right.
And that's
They always do that with Bane.
And that's the one thing that kind of bothered me about that little plot twist. They kind of made it as if like, oh, I am like the mastermind. He's like, you know, my little underling.
My underling, yeah.
Very similar to the first movie with Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul.
Sons of bitches.
Instead of being like a mutual
tandem, like they did with Batman Returns. You know, it's like a twofer.
But what's kind of interesting to me too, as you know, culture wars not only happen in politics, they happen in art a lot. And this is one of the, I'll use Bane as an example. This is one of the few instances when I watch Batman versus Robin with Schwarzenegger and, you know, Uma Thurman and all them.
Oh, yeah, Batman.
This was usually that the culture can really pound on you what it wants you to see. And I don't recall ever seeing such an outcry from comic book fans when they said that Bane is unacceptable to all of us. And that to me, like, that was an empowering moment as a comic book reader to be like, no, you did Bane 180 degrees wrong, and we will not ever forgive you for that. Yep. And it was nice to fight back against these studios for once and say, you need to pay attention to us, or at least get an intelligent
Schumacher
person
never
writing.
recovered. He really never recovered after that. I think he did Phone Booth or something, but that was
8mm, which is more of a cult movie.
Oh, at best.
Yeah.
Blah.
You know, and he did the Phantom of the Opera, but it wasn't that popular.
No. Okay, I will admit I liked Phantom of the Opera. But that's probably more for Gerard Butler.
No, but I mean, when we really think of Schumacher, who, by the way, used to be a costume designer, who became a big director. I mean, Lost Boys, Flatliners, Falling Down. I mean, could you think of any three better movies at that time that were not obviously Oscar movies?
That's true. That's a great trilogy. You should watch them all in a row. Highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
And then at the end, get a McDonald's cheeseburger.
All right, Donald, did I leave anything out with Batman and Bane you'd like to add? Or Kevon?
I don't think so. Not so much with Batman and Bane. That was a great fight. I think that whole thing leading up to it. I mean, Batman's had his great fights. He fought Superman in The Dark Knight Returns, right? Wasn't that the one where he fought Superman?
Yeah.
And he took a lot of planning, and he got a suit, and he got kryptonite, and he basically beat the shit out of Superman. Which you can't ask for more. That was who wrote that? It was
it Miller?
Yes, thank you, Frank Miller. Yeah.
So, well, here's something when you mentioned that, there's a point that pops into my head. So obviously there was a Batman versus Superman movie, and obviously remember the first Spider-Man film with the Green Goblin and Peter Parker. Now, the way that I can tell you wrote a good story is when they're recreating it to a T in many respects. For example, the way the Green Goblin dies in the comic book is the same way he dies in the movie. And then also, too, when Batman fought Superman, the kryptonite spear, that was a thing. You know, and if you're going to recreate that exactly and put it into a movie, you're on solid ground, because movies and comic books are not the same medium.
No.
And there's a tendency to take liberties, and when you're keeping it that accurate, that should tell you what a great storyline.
And you want to talk about great storylines? I got one for you here. The Death of Superman.
Yeah, classic.
We can spend forever on this.
I know, and I know I've talked about it before. Dan Jurgens, the guy's hit or miss, let's be honest.
He was at his peak.
But he has hit his stride in certain points. And Superman, he did know he could write a good Superman story, let's be honest. He also created Booster Gold, so we got to give him credit where credit is due.
Yes.
Death of
Booster
Superman.
Lime Green.
Yeah, there you go. Doomsday was a being he was created only to destroy. He was ripped apart and put back together for years with scientists and stuff, and
dying each time.
Right, yeah. And he had finally had the strength to break out of his containment, kill his creators, and then travel to Earth. It was there that the only person strong enough to take him on was Superman himself. And I mean, the reason why is he decimated the entire Justice League. Put my boy, Ted Kord the Blue Beetle, in a coma, for God's sakes. Beat the shit out of Guy Gardner to the point where he couldn't even see. just knocked the socks out of Fire and Ice. He just obliterated
So
him.
they set this up. We're good, didn't they?
With
Yeah.
one arm tied behind his back.
One arm tied behind his back, absolutely. And that's a good way to describe it, because that literally did happen. It was there and only there when he took on Superman that the two engaged in a colossal battle that puts the entire planet at risk. It was one of the first times where we saw Superman actually at risk of dying. In fact, so much so that he actually did die.
Yes.
He did die.
He paid the
Guys,
price. He paid
this
price.
is the point where Superman died. At the end of this issue, it says, and I quote, "But it's too late, for this is the day that a Superman died." It's got Lois crying tears over Superman's dead body, with his cape hanging in the breeze and Jimmy Olsen taking a picture in the background. You can't get more seminal than this. You can't get more tragic than this. That's it.
And it's not
There's
like-
nothing
Remember,
else to
and it's
say.
not like
this made world news back then.
It did.
And this is not like that kind of pseudo phony death when Batman allegedly killed him. No, this is not. This is legit stuff. And quite frankly, if
Look at the bloody logo.
I
Mm-hmm.
hate to deal in absolutes here, but is there a better battle in the history of comics than Superman and Doomsday?
It's up there.
It's way up there.
This
really
this
high.
is a
really,
this
really
is a
high.
special
For
battle.
me, it's probably my number one.
And think about this too. Doomsday evolves constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you attack him, he adapts immediately. This is a perfect killing machine. Perfect. And yeah, this is just
Look at this
great
shit.
stuff.
Look how easy he takes out Ted Kord. Ted Kord, unbeknownst, doesn't even know he's even near it. Gets grabbed by the neck, squeezed, thrown against a wall, slammed against a pipe, slammed against another wall. He's done. He's done. That's it. If it wasn't for Superman, he would have been dead as a doornail. But Superman saved him and everyone else. Superman fought till his last breath. I've got nothing else to say about this. This was an amazing fight.
And even that movie, which I have serious problems with, at least they kept the death authentic. Stabbed by Doomsday, stabbed back by Superman. I mean, amazing stuff.
Yes, we'll give him credit for that.
And we can also guys, as I know, you are big fans of animated comic series.
Yes.
And the Superman Doomsday film. I thought the fight could have been better, but I got through it just fine.
So good, they did it twice. They literally did that twice. They animated it once, called Doomsday, and then I think the next one was...
Superman dies.
Yeah, something like that. It was
Death of Superman.
Death of Superman. They did, and then they did the one, The Return of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
They did a twofer that just came out this year, I believe. If not last year. It was pretty early.
2018, yeah. It did come out in 2018.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, what do you got?
One of my favorite storylines of all time, right up there with the Age of Apocalypse, the Sinestro Corps War.
Oh, that's a good one, dude.
My goodness.
It's carnage up and down there.
This is one of the best combinations of writing and also artwork from Evan Van Scier, if I'm saying his name right. Forgive me if I'm not saying it right.
I don't know.
But
I would say Siver.
Sciver, thank you. Ethan Van Sciver.
I don't know if that's right.
But whatever it is,
It's just what I would say.
it's just an all-out A+ job. And the fights, especially towards the end of the storyline, is amazing. The entire Green Lantern Corps against Sinestro and his people. And not only is it just Sinestro, I think you had Mongol in the team that was part of it. You had the Anti-Monitor, and you had one of my favorite villains, Superboy Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the main event for me really was Superboy Prime against a bunch of the Green Lanterns. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Just the bloodshed that was coming. I mean, anyone who came after him, the other Superboy got taken out. Lanterns being taken out left and right. I mean, it got so bad that the Guardians of the universe had to come and render aid to help out. And when it was all said and done, 440 Green Lanterns died during this battle. And one of the Guardians had to sacrifice themselves just to take out Superman Prime. And they didn't even kill Superman Prime. Instead, Superboy Prime ended up in an alternate universe.
That's insane.
It's crazy. And then another Guardian named Scar ended up suffering a major wounds at the hands of the Anti-Monitor. And then when they finally did defeat the Anti-Monitor, the sudden Anti-Monitor, he ended up crashing on the planet and it becoming the Black, of course, the Black Power.
Can we just all agree that this is Jeff Johns' best work?
This is Jeff Johns' best work. I thought the Blackest Night after that would have topped it, but it didn't. It was good. It was good, but it wasn't as good as this.
It was really good. And I think a lot
of
people liked it more because of the zombie aspect of it.
The
big zombie craze that was
going
on.
And all the different rings that came out, which is cool. But
the story to this was so good.
I mean, it was just amazing.
So good. I had one hand on the book, one hand down my pants.
As you should. As you should.
Every time.
I mean, just a well-executed storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, if they ever turn that into a movie, oh my God.
I'm not wearing pants.
You should go in naked, actually.
No, I'll wear a kilt.
But nothing underneath the kilt.
Easy access.
I see.
Yeah, easy access to get punched in the balls.
Darren, if I were you, get the trade paperback of this series, the Sinestro Core War.
And get a kilt.
Get a kilt. Trust me.
And bagpipes.
You will enjoy the read. It's amazing.
Well, I'm going to throw one back at you. This
Go ahead.
was an epic battle that the fans asked for back in the day. And when I say back in the day, not that long ago, but long ago, decades ago. And that was, who would win in a fight between the Hulk and the Thing?
Ah, shit. I knew somebody was going to bring this one.
The Hulk and the Thing. And the question is, answered the Hulk. But, it was kind of anticlimactic. As you remember, the Hulk falls in the water and becomes Bruce Banner again. So that part sucked. But the rest of it was great. We're talking about epic destruction here. Now, I've had issues with the Thing for years. Not his fault, mostly the writing, but this was one of those fights that really lived up to it. And that you can think of Hulk and Wolverine in 181, where this Wolverine just keeps coming and coming, whatever. But Hulk and Thing was built up just so much more for me.
Well, yeah, it's classic. They've been fighting for years and years and years. Every time somebody, there's a new writer, they always want to pit the Thing against the Hulk.
Right.
That's something that everybody's always wanted to do. And that's because it's the kid in you that's always thought, well, what if the Thing fought the Hulk, Or you always want to pit the strongest characters together. I mean, we had, not too long ago, we had Gladiator and Supreme, which was a very odd pairing, but both of them an uncaring, Superman-esque type character fighting against each other. That was also extremely well done. So yeah, like the Thing and the Hulk, I always go for the Thing. I always lean towards him because he's more family centric. He's a good-hearted character. He knows the difference between right and wrong. The Hulk is just angry. He's just a force of will of Bruce Banner. He's a product of nature and of his environment. But with the Thing, he always stood for something. So I always was team Thing. But let's be honest, push came to shove. Realistically, the Hulk should be the winner in this war, because the Hulk, the madder he gets, the stronger he gets. Thing, the madder he gets, just the more mistakes he'll make. So essentially, they have to find a way to make the Hulk weaker in order to even out the odds, and that's Bruce Banner.
Yeah, and honestly, the Hulk smash did obviously defeat its clubber in time. But, I will say this. You just have to find those weaknesses in the Thing. And, of course, he's rock. So, good luck with that, I say.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kevin, I noticed you were talking about Green Lantern books. And
yes.
I happen to have on my list a Green Lantern book as well.
Really?
Emerald Twilight.
Ooh.
Now, I know, again, I'm kind of retreading ground here. I've talked about this in the past, but for good reason.
It's a classic.
This is a classic, and it is an essential read for anybody that hasn't. It's a great fight.
It's a wipeout.
Basically, it's a massacre. It's a guy. It's Hal Jordan versus the entire Green Lantern Corps.
Plus
Sinestro.
Plus the Guardians.
That's the entire Green Lantern Corps. I threw that in with that. But basically, what happens is that it's kind of an insane thing to talk about, but in Green Lantern number 46, it was part of the Reign of the Superman storyline, basically when all the Superman came back. But the extraterrestrial villain Mongol, and Superman also had a knockdown, drag-out fight with Mongol before this, to where Superman was willing to kill in order to win. Yeah. Mongol wanted to turn the planet Earth into a battle world, battle planet, and destroy. He was destroying other planets is what he was doing. He was killing life completely. So Superman fought him. So this has already happened, but So Mongol teams up with the cyborg Superman, and the cyborg Superman is the character that was Hank Henshaw, that basically took over the moniker of Superman with mischievous thoughts in mind of what he could do as Superman. But anyway, they had a series of bombs that they used to destroy Hal Jordan's city of Coast City, with the intention of using the area as one of the 4-way stations for a giant engine that would ultimately transform Earth into a massive spaceship called Warworld. Now, Hal Jordan returns to the city to find a massive fortress engine standing in the ruins of his home and his family, his friends, everyone. So what he does is he furiously attacks. Hearing the voices of those killed, he cries out. They're crying out in his mind, essentially. The voices fall silent when Jordan defeats Mongol in battle. Hal also witnesses the return of Superman, who has defeated the cyborg elsewhere in the city. In issue 47, he teams up with Green Arrow or whatever, but in 48, he becomes the center of what used to be Coast City, and he clutches the remains of a doll that's from a child. He basically, at that point, snaps and decides that he's going to bring back every citizen that died in Coast City. And he can do it because he's Hal Jordan. He has the will of any man, stronger than any man on the planet. So he thinks that if he goes about killing all the Green Lanterns and obtaining their rings, first he tries to, give me your ring. They're not going to do it. So then he's like, well, I'll kill you to get your ring so I can bring back these people. Doesn't quite make much sense to me. But hey, we're talking comic book world. So he fights all of the Green Lanterns, including Mongol. And I mean, not Mongol, but I'm talking about Kilowog. My apologies. He fights Kilowog, who Kilowog is like the essential, like the general of the Green Lantern Corps. He's the backbone. He destroys him with one blast of his ring. Yikes. Obliterates him, just leaves his skull and a few bones. Wow. Takes his ring and moves on until we see him face to face with Sinestro. And he fights Sinestro. Sinestro was given his ring and given power of the Green Lantern Corps back to fight him. Sinestro takes on Hal Jordan. He loses. Hal Jordan snaps his neck.
Wow.
You can't get more violent. You can't get more vicious than this run. Hal Jordan cuts the finger off of a character that fought against him to take her ring and add it to his hand so he can have more power. Hal Jordan was vicious. He was ruthless. There was nothing that was going to stop him. And it took the power of one rogue guardian and one rogue painter in order to bring him down. And that, gentlemen, is a story for another time because you all will have to read it to learn a little more.
As you should.
But it is a great, great story, a great battle, Emerald Twilight.
Kevin, do you have another fight you'd like to share?
Just real quick. I'm enjoyed the fight between Cable and Strife. First big one they had, and that was in the Executioner's Song storyline.
Okay.
It was a very good fight at the very end. Unfortunately, a time vortex had to be used to stop, Strife's machinations, so to speak. So it initially killed Strife and Cable originally. And, a lot was tied in with that storyline. I don't know if you ever heard the Legacy virus.
I have.
Yes, that also started around that particular time as well. But I enjoyed that fight.
And you have 32 copies of Cable's first appearance.
No, I do not.
Well, from what you
just recently won, right?
Won?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah, didn't you get Cable's first appearance? Wasn't that the one you were looking for?
Oh, yeah, but you said 32 copies, though.
Well, I said just one.
That's one, yeah.
No, I said it because you talked about your Cable first appearance quite a bit.
Yeah, that was your last one, right?
The
New Mutants
run.
run.
That's right.
Was the last one.
That's
was Cable.
One.
See, I got a good memory sometimes.
Yeah, there you go.
Any last words?
Just want to say, folks, I hope you enjoyed our big fight scenes. And I'll tell you, what's interesting in comic books is people discuss storylines a lot, and we wanted to take a moment to really discuss fights that are visually very appealing to watch or read while you're looking at your comics. And I think that honestly, the art on any of these is captivating.
Yes.
And it's something that y'all should be checking out, especially Superman versus Doomsday, if you haven't.
Yes, they go hand in hand, art and story. You can't have a good story without good art in comic books.
No.
And you can't have, you can have good art, I guess, but it won't make much of a difference if you don't have a good story.
Well, naturally, yeah. I mean, it's very heavily reliant on this. So with all that being said, my name is Darren.
My name is Kevin.
And I'm Donald.
And thank you once again for joining us. You can find us on all sorts of platforms, like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and what's the one for I can never think of the radio.
Spotify?
Thank you. iTunes, obviously.
Google Play Music, Sprecher, and a few others actually too.
And obviously, you know, Kevin, he has many ways that you can reach him personally, especially when it comes to his 32 copies of Cable's first appearance.
Yes.
Because as always, we might, perhaps, see you
at the comic shop.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.